This is the Huion Kamvas GT-191. It is a screen-based drawing tablet that you plug into your Windows or Mac computer. This device was provided to me by the fine folks over at Huion. It has a 19.5-inch screen, 1920 by 1080 full HD resolution, and the pen has over 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. My first impression was that I thought the screen looked really good. Oftentimes I will plug in a monitor like this and I will fiddle with the contrast and the color. I'm not a big color guy, so if I'm fiddling with the color, that means that the color's a little off. So the fact that I could plug it into my PC or a Mac and have it work right off the bat and the colors look good, that's a great sign. Another thing I've noticed about tablets like this is that the viewing angles aren't always great, but no matter how I'm looking at this one, it was just fine. The only notable downside of the screen is that there's a little bit of color bleed when you scroll. I'm not sure if the effect that I'm thinking of is actually called color bleed. It's when you scroll, you actually see this like yellow blurring effect on darker objects or text on your screen. I know, I'll just take a poor video that doesn't really show what I'm talking about. I don't know if you can see it here, but the black shapes here leave yellow trails. So the good news is that I only noticed it when I was scrolling, not drawing, and it's not really that distracting. It is a glossy glass screen, so you are going to notice a little bit of ice skating with the plastic stylus that it comes with. Unlike those etched glass Wacom screens that give you more of that paper-like drawing feel. Speaking of that smooth glassed feel, when I first got the monitor up and running, I started drawing on it, and immediately I noticed that the stylus would grind on the screen a little bit. It didn't feel smooth. It was almost as if the pen was scratching the screen. On some parts of the screen, there was just a little too much resistance. It just felt wrong when I was drawing. The good news here is that the more that I drew, the more that went away, but it was kind of strange. It was almost like there was some kind of residue on the screen that you need to wipe off before actually using it. After a good cleaning, it worked just fine. Although I will say, occasionally I will be drawing on the screen and hit a part that I either didn't clean well enough or that I haven't used that much, and I'll hit that area and it'll bring my pen to like a screeching halt. Now this isn't a huge issue because it's one of those things that fixes itself over time or is very easy to fix. But if you pick up this tablet, start using it, and notice that, just know that it goes away. And even though I feel the need in a review like this to describe issues like that, whether it's the light bleed when I'm scrolling or whether it's the rough texture when I'm drawing early on with the tablet, I felt that those were very minor occurrences and didn't really hurt the tablet at all. I felt it was a very good tablet. And it all comes down to the pen. Many of these third-party tablets use UC Logic pen drivers. I'm not 100% sure that Huion is using those here, but I bet they are. What's different about this from some of the other tablets that I've reviewed over the last few months that are very similar to this is that this pen is very much updated and has 8,000 levels of pressure sensitivity compared to some of the other tablets that are out there that only have 2,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. Can I tell? No, nope, can't tell. This is not a knock on the pen or the technology behind it. It's just once you reach a certain level of pressure sensitivity, you're not gonna really notice the upgrades that happened past it. It's like if I had 2,000 cookies and someone came along and gave me 8,000 cookies. Is it great to have 8,000 cookies? Absolutely, but am I gonna notice that I have 6,000 more cookies? Not for a few hours. I can eat a lot of cookies. Overall, the pen feels like many of the other pens that I've used. It feels really good. It does everything well in my pen test. There is a slight wobble, which is pretty common with these battery-powered pens like this one, but the pressure is really responsive, holds it well around curves, passed most of my line tests. It does very well. I will say that on really fast strokes, you will get some shoestringing effects. The main thing here that you should be aware of when it comes to the pen is the initial activation force. How much pressure do you have to apply to the pen before a line starts to appear on your canvas? If you are a light sketcher, you're going to notice that you're going to have to apply more pressure than you might want to in order to get that line to actually appear. Especially if you're used to a Wacom pen or like an Apple Pencil, you're definitely going to notice. And like most tablets similar to this, you're going to have to contend with parallax. I'm talking about that space in between the glass and the screen where there is some displacement between where you place your stylus down on the screen and where your cursor actually appears on that screen. This is something that's happened to drawing tablets for ages and ages, but it's something that has only been fixed probably in the last 2 or 3 years with things like the iPad Pro, the Surface Pro, and some of the new Wacom tablets. Also, something that I forgot to mention in some of my previous reviews is that these pens do not have tilt functionality like the Wacom tablets do. Also, you're not going to find an eraser on the back end either, but there is a port which you can use to plug it in and recharge the pen. Like many of my criticisms of this tablet, my criticisms of the pen are kind of in the same vein, they're really nitpicks. They're really small things, little obstacles that you have to jump over. When you look at the price of a device like this, it's perfectly acceptable to have some of these trade-offs. I will say this, one of the things that I really did miss were having hotkeys along the side of the monitor. The monitors that have shortcut keys tend to be a little bit more expensive, so that's one area where this tablet has cut the cost, is by cutting off those shortcut keys. Since it is a large monitor, I do have to push my keyboard off to the side, so hitting undo or changing my brush size was slower than it otherwise would be. So if that's something that you want, it's probably worth springing for a more expensive tablet. If not, this is definitely a good option for you. This stand is like a lot of the other stands that I've used recently. It's a little bit heavy, it's a little bit bulky, but boy is it solid. The adjustability is handled by this little latch on the back, which means once you've secured it, it's not going to slide down on you or change position at all. The position of the wires coming out of the back of the tablet is not ideal, however. They're kind of going downward towards the stand, so you have to bend them around. If you move your tablet around a lot, you're going to find the wires getting stuck underneath the stand and wobbling. So there is some positioning that has to happen there. If you never move your tablet, you're never going to care. You can connect this with either a DVI, VGA, or HDMI cable. If you don't know what any of those letters just meant, you are so lucky. The cable it comes with is an HDMI cord. If you need the DVI or VGA, you're either going to need to find an adapter or bring your own cord to the party. And by party, I mean laptop. Everything else you are going to need, from a USB cable to a little pen holder, is included in the box, including extra pen nibs. I have compiled a list on my website of a lot of these larger base screen devices I've been reviewing lately. And on there I talk about the pros and the cons and which ones have kind of risen to the top and which ones I think you should stay away from. There's a link down below. There will also be a link at the very end of this video. Overall, I'm really amazed at how far some of these Cintiq-like replacements have come in the last few years. You used to have to make huge trade-offs in the amount of quality just to save a little bit of money, but now you're saving a lot of money and you're only making smaller and smaller trade-offs. There's definitely a gap in quality between something like this and something like the best Wacom devices on the market. However, for the amount of money that you're spending, if you are on a budget, this is a very good choice. So that's all I've got for this week. If you have any comments or questions, let me know down below. As always, you can hit me up on Twitter. I'd also like to thank everybody who supports this channel. There's a couple ways to do that. One is Patreon. The other way of doing it is clicking my Amazon links down below. If you choose to purchase any of these tablets, I get a little bit back. Help support this channel. That's all I've got. I'll see you guys in a couple of days.